Welcome to Out of the Past. My name is Lenny Tvedten. I'm your host. Out of the Past is brought to you by the Martin County Historical Society. Today I'm going to be visiting with Bob Krause, and we're going to be talking about what he recalls from some of the bands from the 1960s and 70s locally, and also we're going to touch on the Fairmont Youth Center. First of all, Bob, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I was born and raised in Fairmont, went to school here, been most of my life in the music business, and I've been in Fairmont except for a few years in Mankato. I went to school up there and had some bands in Mankato. Came back to Fairmont, and I've been here ever since.
So from what you said, you were kind of a professional musician then?
I guess so, yes.
Okay. So ever since, when did you graduate? What year?
1966.
1966. That was kind of right in the midst of the garage bands locally here?
It was. Every town had several garage bands. Every town had places to play.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, you're correct.
What were some of the bands that you recall from that era, or maybe some that you played in?
I played in a lot of them. Started back in about 8th and 9th grade. This was in the old junior high,
Mm-hmm.
which has since burnt down.
When it burned down? Sure.
Yeah. And we had a group called the Volcanoes.
Sure.
Myself, Steve Murphy, Frank Bailoff, and Dennis Brandt. You have a poster of us
Yeah, we do.
at the museum that you
Yeah.
put together. We did play at the Youth Center in 72. And back then in 74, we formed a group called the Pacers. And they also played at the Youth Center in about 74. And that would have been me and Steve Murphy, Greg C., and Steve Kessler.
Do you still keep in contact with some of these people?
Well, Steve Murphy has passed away,
Sure.
unfortunately, and he was very active in several bands.
Yeah, he was a well-known name. Yeah.
Very well known. Before I got to high school, then we had another group called the Antagonists, and that was from about 11th to 12th grade and shortly after high school.
Mm-hmm. So you were a part of a number of different groups. Then.
Yes, yep, and that's just went through high school.
Okay.
When I was in Mankato, I was in a group up there for a couple of years, and then came back to Fairmont. I did a two-piece group called Spencer and Krause. Then I did get together with a brother of Steve Murphy, which was Mike Murphy, and we had a group two-piece called Murphy and Krause for several years.
I should ask too. What instrument or instruments did you? Did you play?
Well, I was kind of a jack of all trades. I did what needed to be done at the time. When I was really young, our whole family took piano lessons from Ruth Danielson.
Oh, sure, well-known.
Was
piano
well known
instructor,
here. And I got interested in guitar, so I got out a piano, which my folks probably weren't happy with, but started playing guitar. Took a little bit of lessons from Roy Healy.
Oh, sure, I remember that name too.
Who was in a group, I can't even remember the name, but played with some of the older folks here.
That wouldn't have been Million Saddle Pals, right?
I believe, yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Million Saddle Pals. I learned how to play six-string guitar, and that's what I played in the first couple of groups. And I joined a group. They had a guitar player, but they needed a bass player, and I went to bass. And then I was in another group where they had guitar and bass, but they needed a keyboard player, so then I learned how to play keyboard again. And that's what I'm doing now, is on keyboard.
How long, or what was the span of these garage bands, from the mid-'60s to when? Or are they still going on?
I don't think much anymore. Well, of course, the COVID shut a lot of stuff down. We were really active up to that point, still playing.
Mm-hmm.
But every town, when I was doing some of these other groups after high school, every town you could go to, they had either bars or service clubs that you could get a job. One of the last big groups I had was MacArthur Park Band.
You were a part of that one?
Yes, and we
Yeah,
were.
it was a well-known group.
Yes, we were together for 22 years.
Really?
Yep,
Wow.
Yep. And
They played at the fair and everything, didn't
oh
they?
yeah, and we played all over. We were busy.
All over like the Midwest?
Yeah, well, yeah, southern Minnesota, northern Iowa, that kind of area, within a couple hours from home.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, for 22 years we had the same 3 people together.
Really? Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. And our drummer at the time was the retired drummer from Shaw Allen Shaw.
Oh. Wow.
He retired from Shaw Allen Shaw, and he didn't want to play anymore, and we talked him into it. And 22 years later, we were...
Yeah. Interesting. Well, you've had a lot of experiences then. Just thinking back, are there some that you could share that are kind of unique, interesting, or surprising that happened during your career?
I was fortunate to play with some talented people back then.
Where would be the most interesting place that you played? One that kind of stands out in your mind, if there is one.
There really isn't one because, like I say, they were all enjoyable. It's kind of funny when I think back, when the Volcanoes played at the youth center, I don't remember what we got paid, but when the Pacers played at the youth center, this is 64,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know if we have a contract from that. I don't know if you have a copy of that.
We have a copy. I'm not sure if it's to that one or
Yeah.
not.
Anyway, we played there for 4 hours. We got paid $45.
Split between how many?
There was 4 of us then.
Okay.
Yeah, and we got $45 for 4 hours.
Huh.
Elliot Waterbury, I remember him very well at the youth center. I think he was pretty much the head of the youth center.
Sure. What do you remember about the youth center, both as far as playing there and maybe just the youth center itself?
I think it was very well organized, very well run. I can't remember what they charged to get in. Was it 50 cents or something, I think, maybe?
Mm-hmm. Were there a lot of kids that
I think it was
came?
very well received.
Well attended?
Yeah, and of course, some of us would sneak out to go over to Central School and smoke a cigarette back then, which we weren't supposed to be doing.
Sure.
But, and of course, the youth center was supposed to be forever, but it wasn't, as we know.
Mm-hmm. What kind of activities did they have in the youth center besides, say, if you had a band playing there?
I don't remember. They had food and pop and stuff there you could get, and they had something going on upstairs. I don't know if they had games, but like I say, for me, that was a long time ago, so
Sure.
I've forgotten some of that stuff.
Do you know what led to the decline of the youth center, or why it eventually closed?
Well, I don't know, because I don't think it was supposed to close. I think some money was given to there to keep it going forever. The
Fiftner
yeah,
funds?
that gave money for that place to run. I do think there was a few places that opened up downtown that maybe took away some of the business there.
Competition.
Yeah, and there was something right down the street here that I believe opened up. I can't remember the name of it. Where I think the kids started to hang out, because it probably wasn't. They probably didn't make you be quite the rules as the youth center did, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it was a shame that it did decline, but I guess it was bound to happen. I suppose.
Ran its course.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything else about your career in music that you wanted to mention or tell us about?
It's been good. It's a shame that the COVID did slow things down, the way it did. Hopefully things will start coming back better.
Sure.
They have a little tiny bit. I think there's going to be some people that I might mention to you when we're done that maybe you've already talked to or could come here.
Okay.
And maybe my one friend of Mike Murphy, he probably had one of the first groups in this area, the Four Shades.
Oh, okay.
And the reason they got their name is because when they played, they wore sunglasses.
Oh,
And
that makes sense.
And I think Mike could really give you some good information. And I remember some other things. I remember one time the band, the Pacers, played on Annabelle Webb.
Oh, on a radio show.
On a radio show, and this was back when the radio station was still downtown there. Yeah.
And how did that pan out?
Well, it went really well. It was kind of interesting because, and I should try to find somebody that remembers better than I do, but we played on Annabelle Webb, and everything was live, even our commercials.
Yeah.
And we had one of our bass player was Steve Kessler, and Annabelle Webb was trying to get him into one of the commercials, and I forget what it was for. And she was bragging about it, and she said to Steve, "Guys, what do you think about it?" And he says, "Well, I really don't like the product because there's a better product that I like better." And of course, that was shut down really well. But Steve Murphy was still in Catholic school at the time. And I think when the program was aired, I think they even played it over the intercom at the Catholic school.
Oh, really?
So the kids could hear it.
Interesting.
But I wish somebody knew better about that. And Annabelle Webb taped everything, but I'm sure that's buried in the archives.
Yeah, I'm not sure where that would be either.
Yeah. But there's other people I'm sure that you can talk to. Jerry Clark, Steve Fausch, Tom Tourville. But like I say, Mike would really be a good one to talk about, because like he probably would have had one of the earlier groups in this area.
Sure. Okay, well, Bob, thank you very much. Appreciate your coming on, telling us about the bands of the 60s and 70s era and your experiences with them. And
well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it, and it's been enjoyable.
Wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching Out of the Past, brought to you by the Martin County Historical Society. We'll see you again next time on Out of the Past or at the Pioneer Museum.